You enjoy that, huh? He loves it. What's up, guys? DOTG here, and today is very special. We are gonna be getting into the bus build by my new friend here, Eric. He has a lot of plans for this bus. It is built on a Ford E450 chassis that he actually got for free.
Oh yeah.
Yo, yeah. So I'm going to get into all the details here. There's going to be a lot of it. That's probably why there's going to be multiple parts of this series. If you guys are interested in sticking around for that, make sure you guys are subscribed. That way you guys get notified for part 2. Let's get into the build.
Oh yeah. This is my dad's shop, and my parents are being extremely gracious by letting me live here, and I'm kind of temporarily separated from my wife, which is why she's like, oh, it's taking too long and la da da. But because of her line of work, we constantly have to move, and we just want to bank most of our income, and so that's why I'm building this mobile unit for us, so we can constantly be bouncing from job to job, or we can bounce with weather or whatever. The way I got this bus, actually, I originally was planning on living inside of a van. And I bought a GMC Savannah, and I had to be like all hunched over the whole time, and I've got my wife Donna, and she was just like, I can't live and work out of this tiny little van. So I was praying to God. I was like, dear Jesus, please help me find something that'll work, or what am I gonna do? Because I was at the point where I didn't have a place to stay and this and that, and I know I wanted to live mobile because I lived in my Civic for a whole year, and that was awesome. I hit all the national parks in the continental US and la da da da. But now I got a wife, and so basically 15 minutes after I was like, what should I do? An ex-girlfriend hits me up on Instagram. I was like, should I answer it? And she's like, yeah, sure, you can answer it. So I open it up. She's like, hey, I'm working at this place, and they have this bus, and they're trying to give it away because it needs $10,000 worth of work. Well, I was like, okay, so I showed up, and I got the title in my name so I could tow it home. But then I was like, man, this looks like it might be drivable. Well, I'll show you. The catalytic converter was cut off, and the wheelchair handicap lift didn't work, which was probably part of the more expensive part because it was for a retirement home. But if you look at this park neutral reverse drive, it's just sagging out of park a little bit because this is a little broken. And if you just push it up like that, the bus freaking fires right up. It's got 56,000 miles on it, or 58,000 miles on it. So it was just like one of those things, and then it fired right up. I drove it home. It has no leaks, nothing wrong with it. I went through it, pretty good. I still got to do a coolant flush, but other than that, I mean, this thing is good to go.
So you got this
450.
E450 for free.
For free. Title signed over, $0, and then I took it to the DMV, no tax, no nothing, title's in my name.
So let's talk about how you stay organized with every single thing you got going on in the bus.
Yeah.
With owner's manuals and tech specs and all that.
Yeah, and because a lot of times I have to start a project, realize everything I need, and order a bunch of stuff, table that, and so I have stuff to do. I started another project, so normally I have 4 or 5 projects, plumbing, electrical, all this at the same time, and then trying to determine what's the best order to do everything and all that. And so what I wound up doing is I picked this up from Goodwill for like $4, and now I have it labeled. So right here is my key labeling. So the first one is legal documents, maintenance records, then I have chassis info, generator info, and I print out all of the service manuals for everything, and it goes in order. So like, for example, like my water system, I'm working on engineering that right now. Engineering, I call it, but just planning it, I guess.
Quote unquote.
Yeah, and so like this is the setup that I have, and I have a recirculation valve, so I don't have to waste any hot water waiting for it to heat up. It'll recirculate back into the tank and all this other stuff. When I got it, this part of the bus ended right here, and so I welded in a whole frame. I have more video footage of the process, and then I took the nose cap of the fiberglass, so I just literally cut it off, framed it out, put it on right here, and then laid wax paper and backer board on all this. And then most of the time how people create fiberglass is they'll make a mold and then make the fiberglass. So this is kind of like the mold making process, which is why it's a little woogity. But it was my first time ever doing fiberglass, and it was definitely a hell of a project. If I was to do it again, I would definitely use sheet metal because fiberglass was extremely difficult, but I'm happy with how it turned out considering my experience level. And yeah, man, this whole project took like 4 months just to weld the whole frame and weld it into the, plan it. And then the roof is all wood, and I had to make I cut 1/16 of an inch strips of redwood. I'm using all redwood or cedar because it's antibacterial, antimicrobial. I glued them all together and bent them. And so I have literally micro-lamb beams that I made that are exactly matching the bus, so that this is a little bit lighter of weight, but the bottom part of the frame is all angle iron, and I can, when it was welding it, I could literally stand on the tip of that and jump, and the whole bus would just
Very nice. So welded and fiberglass.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
All
that took
DIY.
forever.
Amazing.
Yeah, and no air bubbles or anything. I talked to a bunch of people, so I wasn't like going in it blind, but I don't ever want to do fiberglass again, honestly, or anything that big anyways. This took like 3 weeks to make because I'm not great at fabrication, and this was my first kind of big fabrication process by myself that had to be pretty nuts on. And so basically I created this drawer for my 2 Honda EU 2000i generators, and so it slides out on these rails, and I just welded all this up. I put the bearings top and bottom there that squeeze onto this rail so it can roll. And these rails are just extra long, and they slide underneath the frame of the bus, but I've got the rails sleeved in pipe so that way no mud and crap can get on the rails and screw up my bearings. And then my favorite part about this is it locks open and it locks closed. So now it's locked open, locked closed. I'm designing the door to flip up so it's also a rain cover on top of being the door. But my favorite part about this is that when I close it, I have set pins in there and on the back that actually raise this whole tray up, and so it doesn't even sit on the bottom bearings at all. And so when I'm driving, I don't have to worry about this 100 pounds worth of generators going on the bearings.
Very nice.
And the other nice thing about this is both of these have their own fuel pumps. And so I'm plumbing in, I have a kit to have the bus's gas tank feed straight into the generators. And then I soldered up my own custom banana plugs. And so these plug into the generators for dual operation, but the dual operation things are like $100. These banana plugs are like 10 cents a piece. So I got the plugs, hooked them up to 10 gauge wire. That all goes in here. It's got its own little 30 amp circuit breaker built in. Well, not built in, I put it in there. But then this wire coils up nice so you can see when I slide it back in. I don't know if you can see, but the wire, it just folds up nice back there.
Nice.
And that wire runs into this plug, so I can run a welder off of the generators if I want, or if I flip this switch, it'll run the generators to my inverter. I'll show you my solar cabinet. And if I flip it the other way, then I can plug into this male end, and that's short power essentially. So I can plug into short power or the generators in order to put power into my inverter, which my inverter will charge my batteries and run the bus with that power. Condenser right here with fans and everything, and I removed the bus's AC because I'm not going to be driving this nearly as much as I'm going to be sitting, and the amount of solar and everything that I have can run my AC no problem. And so I still got AC in the cab when I'm driving, but I just removed the giant rear AC because I have other plans for all that space. I wound up getting all this angle iron for what did I was like 10 cents a foot or something, because it was all welded into these massive cages that some dude sold me for super cheap. So I cut all that up, I ground all the epoxy paint and crap off, and I welded these frames up. And so it holds the hydraulic leveling over here, and I'm gonna have like a little access panel door and stuff. I still gotta build the doors. And then to run the rest of the electronics that I'll show you, have it all going into this box. This is an old fuse box off of the same, it's a Ford V, no, it was the V8, just one of the standard shuttle vans, but in the back of the box, I cut all the wires and I ran the relays through specific fuses. So that way my off-road lights, my reverse camera, my, you know, I got an air compressor up there. To run my train horns and just to have general use of air pressure to blow things out or do whatever. And so that's all wired into that relay box. I'll show you better, but I've got it all. I printed out a little key so I know, like, this is my light bar, this is my reverse light, and that way I ran all the signals to a little switch panel on the dash, but I didn't want to run all the 10 gauge wires up to the dash through the switches. That's why I built a little relay box just for ease of everything, maintenance, freaking, yeah. So you gotta jump off to the left, okay? And keep your legs straight, and then watch out for the pad, because you will come back and hit the pole. Just kind of, woo! Oh. Dave, OTG! Oh yeah! Under the floor was all C-channel like this. Cut and wedge my foam blocks into the C-channel and then foam them all together. So it's all cohesive, and then in order to avoid thermal bridging, I ran a layer of insulation on all my metal. And then on top of that, I did the silver foil with an air gap over the whole thing. And then I put the floor down. And so I saved 2 inches by doing that rather than laying the foam board on the floor. And as you can see, I'm already gonna be just brushing my head once the snap-in laminate goes in and the cedar planks go in.
Okay, so yeah, here's the air tanks underneath we were talking about. There's 2 of them.
Yep, and they're just tied together, so really it's just one. I just wound up having a 1 gallon, so I spliced it in because I could and it fit. But having the one bigger tank didn't fit, it was too round. That's why I went with 2 smaller tanks.
Oh, nice. So under here, there's a bunch of work done too. We'll keep that short. Just say that there's a ton of work down here. As you can see, there's the insulation there with that aluminum flashing, and it is built right into the frame, or like on top of the frame in those little channels, the slots, as opposed to sitting on top of the floor, and then you have to put your floor on top of that, and you lose a lot of head space.
Yep, and I did use insulated tape on all the metal to mitigate thermal bridging.
There you go.
Basically, on the side, you can see, so I started off with an 1.5 inch piece of wood, and then I overfilled it with spray foam. So it's about 1 3/4 inches of spray foam, so about R10 in spray foam. Then I put an air gap, and then this silver stuff. So as you can see, the silver stuff is about a 1/2 inch away from the insulation. And then I put another layer of shims on the other side of the insulation. So now I have a small air gap between the silver and the foam insulation, and then between the silver and the inner wall skin. And that is supposed to maximize. Now, a little bit bigger of an air gap would be more ideal. I'm playing again with space and all the stuff, and so I went with what I went with. I got a 1/2 inch behind it, 1/4 inch in front of it. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So 2 air gaps, and a lot of people forget that step, and that's the step that really ups your R value in terms of insulation.
So the front door is right here that we just came in. Right in the corner here, I'm going to have storage and a little wood burning stove. Then the oven. This is my Summit full-size oven. That's propane. Then another countertop, and then the countertop is dog-eared because the shower is fit into this corner, because I wanted all the water tank, water pump, sink, shower. The gray water tank is directly beneath the sink in the shower, so they're just draining straight in. Another countertop. This is my big water tank, which is gonna double as a little, it'll be underneath a little bench seating area with a little table in the middle. And then this is more storage, and then basically this is my refrigerator, countertop, And this is all storage right here. And my composting toilet is on drawer slides that can slide in and out. It's a Nature's Head composting. I'm actually modifying that. I'll show that in the future, but I'm making it into a bag toilet because you just can't compost in that short of amount of time. It's not physically possible. So I'm just going with the bags for ease of clean out. And there's an easy way to convert those nature heads. I've already thought it through.
Oh, cool.
And then there's my battery tank and my bed chamber, which will also have storage on this edge for socks and underwear and all kinds of stuff like that.
Nice.
So that's the general layout there. This floor, I have the silver insulation, and then it's filled with spray foam. But between the silver insulation and the spray foam, I actually ran aluminum flashing. It just comes in rolls. And that's because these electronics, they do produce RF. That's a fact. And what's controversial is whether or not RF has an effect on people. And there's a lot of studies that correlate cancer and other things to being near heavy RF things. And so I don't want my power plant to be coming straight up into my bed when I sleep. Underneath here, I have 5 100 amp hour batteries. And those are not hooked up yet because I'm still working on this. But those 5 each, this is like all the hot, so I have 3 hot wire running to each battery. It's a little big, I just had the wire. And so basically all the hots are tying into this bus bar. This is a 700 amp bus bar from VTE Industry or Warehouse or something. And then these are all my negatives coming up to this bus bar. And so now essentially the center stud on both of these is one 500 amp hour battery bank coming off the center. So on the positive side, I fused it with an ANL fuse. I need to come up with a plexiglass cover for this because it's kind of wonky. And then I go into this 400 amp disconnect. I don't trust that this disconnect will go off because this is the only thing that I have that's not UL listed. So I fused it as well, which is redundant and probably not the right way to go about it. That's just what I did. Then that main hot leg comes into this second bus bar here. And then straight off of the battery's leg goes into the positive of the inverter. And then my 2 150 charge controllers, each one of those has 2 365 watt panels going into it. So that way I can shade half of my panels if I need to, or if it happens to be shaded, I still have 2 panels in full sun. And then I've got the disconnects just on the hot because the solar system is actually grounded to the chassis. That's different than regular solar systems. So technically you only need to disconnect the hot. That's why I went with single pole. Yeah, so that runs into charge controllers. Charge controllers run through the fuses run back to here. And so that's power in. And then this is my DC to DC charger. So this positive and negative hooks directly to the start battery. I did not ground this to the frame. I ran 2 dedicated runs. Thank you very much. And for the wire, I appreciate that a lot. And then is a 40 amp charger, but it only needs 15 amps input. And so I can plug this into any regular outlet. I plan on parking at my friends' houses a lot, so I'll be using this charger. But if I do have a 30 amp service where I can plug in like at an RV park or something, this inverter can take those 30 amps either from my generators in that selector switch or from shore power. And then this will, if it is receiving electricity, it will automatically, if it's from the generators, connect my neutral, which is the white wire of these, to the ground of the bus. So then the bus will be ground, but if I'm plugged into shore power, it'll automatically disconnect that. And then when I'm plugged into power, not only can it give 100 amps of charging to the batteries, but it will also run my 110 AC panel. And this holds 12 single pole little fuses or breakers. This was only $40 from Home Depot. This is my little light. I have a light up here to light up this. And then coming off of this hot again, going through a fuse, this is my 12 volt fuse block. So this will run my, the brain to the water heater, the water pump, the brain to the diesel heater, stuff like that. And then
all the 12 volt accessories.
Yeah, this is everything 12 volts coming out of here. And I might get another one of these and buddy them up. And then everything 110 is coming out of here. I have separate holes drilled for my 110 versus my 12 volt. Anything with yellow is high voltage DC coming off the panels. Anything with blue is alternating current. And so these are 3 wire, 10 gauge, 30 amp wires. And then anything that's just straight red is 12 volts DC. Straight black is also 12 volts DC. And so that just makes it a little easier by putting those little tape rings. Now I know this isn't a 3/0 solid wire. This is 3 10-gauge wires running. And then this I put in. This is I found it at the junkyard. This is the OEM filler neck with the OEM everything. And then I just got longer hose, and I mounted a 10-gallon Saab gas tank under the bus. And that's why this says diesel only, is because I'm running a diesel heater. And I don't want the diesel to be in the bus, and I don't like dicking around with jerry cans and stuff. So I figured it'd be easier just to fuel it up all in the same place at the same time, and then have those 10 gallons to run off of rather than 1 or 2 gallons. And I understand I am going to need to put additives into my diesel because I'm not going to use the 10 gallons super fast. But the goal of this bus is to be able to be fully off-grid for up to 30 days without any hookups whatsoever. That's the goal. And so I'm just going through in order how I put everything in, but that's my filler neck, and I just thought it would look nice to have the same ones. And because of the metal inside, that's why they're offset. Yeah. It was not ideal, but it was what I had to do in order to make everything work.
Oh, this is nice. Just to be able to pull up to the gas station, fill up the bus, fill up the diesel, and one go.
Yeah, and then you don't have to think about it. And then I mounted this gray water tank right here using these metal straps essentially, and then I had a bunch of this all thread, so I just ran it through the floor and bolted it in. So this is totally removable if I just remove those nuts. And then I've got the standard gate valve, which is a little bit leaky, so I put a cap on it just in case. Most of the time, because this is not going to be black water, I'll just drain it onto the ground unless I'm using soap or something. But yeah, and then if you can see, that's the Saab gas tank that doubles as the diesel heater fuel tank, 10 gallon. And then this is one of the hydraulic leveling rams. So they slide up and sit right there. And yeah, I put these stingers on and the trailer hitch on as well. Those were both off the RV also. It's just to keep everything safe. So if I bottom out, it's going to hit those instead.
Nice.
Oh yeah. Cut in this custom front door. So this used to be a handicap lift. So I basically took the door frame and I cut it from right here and I moved it to right here. I got these stainless security hinges, so they have pins in them, so even if you cut this hinge off, still can't pull the door straight out, which is good, I think. And then I made this custom plate out of aluminum so nobody can get a Sawzall in there and cut my deadbolt, or a grinder even. That would take 2 seconds to cut those and open this up. And still, through the aluminum, you can still cut through it, but it's just more of a pain in the ass, so I figured I'd do it.
Oh yeah.
And then these steps, I found these for $100 on Marketplace, and those were just a simple bolt in. And so the steps can just fold up and fold out. And I got this RV. This was another awning off the RV. I am going to powder coat this inevitably. I just... I'm busy, man, and it works. So I'm going to use it as it works, and then I'll get there. You can see I deleted the windows here. This is all custom sheet metal here. All this is the automotive seam sealer. This was the front door of the bus. I don't like having the door right there, and it is a pain in the ass having a blind spot right here, but the way the layout is and the way the weight distribution wants to be, I put all my electronics closet here. If I could do it again and I was going to pay money for a chassis, I would get a box truck. I think, because a lot of the box trucks already have that front end thing going, and the edges are square, so there's none of this.
Yeah, it's
corner
all right
work.
Angles.
Yeah, man. If there's one thing I've been starting to get good at, it's radius work and learning how to, template radiuses in order to make everything marry up and look nice. We built him a pole barn, Jim, and this was the scraps, and so I cut them into these shapes. So they fit in the edge, so I can put a beauty panel between here and there in like an angle. Yeah. And then all my wires will be accessible because I'll make individual beauty panels for the back of each cabinet, so I can remove it all and run extra wires or whatever. I always have extra strings sitting in all of my runs so I can yank a wire through. And then I always tie a string with my wire so that there's always a string also in the hole, and that saves so much time, man. If you always just remember to run something so you can string your wires, because you don't want to be running those paths more than once, man. I see people freaking run one wire, and it's just, you know, it takes a long time, and so there's and so basically the wires are coming out of here. Anything that's going that way is going to be strung up along the edge here, and that will eventually dive into this corrugated tube over the front door, and then that's going to come down, and to hit these outlets, that's all the power coming this way. See, I've got my boxes in, so how I'm going to run my wires is they're going to be all external until they get where they're going. Then I'm going to run 2 staples right next to each other. I'm going to notch out of this wood, and then I'll put the metal cover plates over the wire. Now the wire will then poke in behind the silver, because they've got that 1/2 inch, and then it'll pop in behind the box, and that's how I'm planning on doing that. And the other thing, so I never hit a wire, like especially when I'm going to lights, I know I have a rule. All my wires run along, you know, where they run along, and then whenever they're going to a light, they will go straight to the light. So I know if there's a light right here, there is a wire going directly to my main bundle. And that's how I'm wiring all my outlets. Nothing is going to go at an angle. Everything is going to go straight. It is going to use extra wire, but it's going to make sure that I know exactly where every wire is, because this is just, and I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but there's so many metal ribs up there and metal things that I didn't want to try to run my wires through all that. I wanted access to my wires for future use, and that's why I'm doing it this way. And I do have a nice little fish, so I can just keep fishing, you know, wires through the silver and stuff. And then all the rest of the power is going straight into this pipe, which ports around the edge, and this shouldn't have an effect on my mattress, and if it does, it's on the very edge, so I'm not too concerned about it. Whoops-a-daisy. Then this wires will come straight down through here, straight down through here. This is just extra storage. I decided to, I don't know, I could have just walled it off, but then I have a hard time with that wasted space.
You gotta use
in this project, And so this spot is accessible from the top, so I can access it from the bed, and this is going to have secret stuff in it maybe. And then everything down here will be accessible from this. I'm planning on having my deep storage in here, so like if I'm in Florida, all my winter stuff will be in here. If I'm in Alaska, all my summer stuff will be in here.
Right.
And then I don't have to get in here too much.
Okay, so next would be finishing the electrical, plumbing.
Yep, so I'll lay the water tank, I'll pop my fill inlets in. My 12-volt pump is going here, so the water tank is here. Pump is here, the kitchen sink is here, so shower is here. So I'll start getting all that plumbed as close as I can get it to where it's going to go. The hot water heater will be inside the shower. So the shower fits in this corner. This is the drain for the shower. Obviously, this will be cut off. I just have them sticking up because they're into the gray water tank. And then there'll be a bench seat in the shower with the hot water heater in it. And so the hot water heater can be insulated from the rest of the vehicle. Once I have all the appliances set and where they go, now I can just frame around them, give them the minimum required ventilation and crap that they need, and then basically just frame the rest of the bus out in as efficient of a way as possible. And some lady in the pinery just gave away all of her cabinet and drawer faces because she got all new ones. So I have all these cherry and cabinet drawer faces from a kitchen that's like 4 times the size of my bus. So I have a ton of those. All the old stainless steel out of a Dunkin' Donuts kitchen. I know the guy who owns all the Dunkin' Donuts around here, and so whenever he's like ripping stuff out, he's always calling me up like, hey, I'm throwing all this stuff away, can you use any of it? Because we did his deck and we gave him like a float spa, and not gave him, I'm sorry, he hired us, but you know, we still did the work and he's happy with it, so he likes us.
Nice.
And yeah, so, you know, if you just keep being nice and, you know, and telling everybody what you're doing, it seems like everybody just wants to help, you know.